Hello, and welcome to Godly Play. Come, join the circle. There's lots of room. I wonder who you brought with you. You could be watching this on Mother's Day, so I'm wondering what's happening for you today on Mother's Day. Are there some people you can bring to join the circle with us? I hope so. That's good to see you. Well, today, look at the calendar of the church year. We're in the season of Easter, and we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm moving it to the 6th Sunday of Easter. So we're getting through the season of Easter. Are you ready? Take a minute and get ready. Get your body ready. Get your eyes ready, your ears, and your heart. There was once someone who said such wonderful things and did such amazing things that people began to follow him. And as they followed, they wondered who he was. And they just couldn't help themselves. They had to ask. And one of the times when they asked him who he was, he said, "I am the light." Let's enjoy the light. I see the love of God in you, the light of Christ comes shining through, and I am blessed to be with you, O holy child of God. But this light didn't stay in that one place and in that one time. And during this season of Easter, we remember why. Because he changed the light. So it could be in all places and in all times. Watch as I change the light. It's coming up. To this room, spreading out over into your space, so that wherever we are in Godly Play today, this light will be with us. And when we leave this space, the light will go with us. So you ready for the story? Well, on the first Sunday in Easter, on that morning of the first Easter ever, it was the women who were coming to the tomb. They were bringing spices so they could complete the burial, and they wondered how they were going to get inside, who would help them roll the stone aside. With the women, there were 3 Marys: Mary, the mother of James, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene, who wasn't a mother, but was a good and trusted friend. But when they got there, they were surprised to see that the stone had been rolled away. And when they looked inside, they saw nothing. Nothing but the white cloth that had been used to wrap the body. The women turned and ran back to tell the others, but they were not believed. But Peter, being Peter, he jumped up and ran towards the tomb. And some said that John got up and ran too, and that John actually made it to the tomb before Peter and waited outside for Peter to come, and that together they went into the tomb. They could feel Jesus' presence in his absence. But Jesus was gone, truly gone. Now, Mary Magdalene had come along behind Peter and John, and she stood outside the tomb weeping. And as Peter and John rushed back towards the others, she stayed behind. And through her tears, she heard a voice. "Woman, why are you weeping?" She turned and she saw two men dressed in dazzling white. "Woman, why do you look for the living among the dead? He is risen as he said. Go and tell the disciples to meet him in Galilee." And then they were gone. But Mary lingered, weeping. Another voice. "Woman, why are you weeping?" Mary turned, and supposing him to be the gardener, said, "Sir, tell me where you have taken them, so that I may go and take him away." And then, "Mary." As he spoke her name, she knew immediately that it was he. She must have gone towards him because he said, "I am risen, but not yet ascended. Go, tell the others." And then he was gone. And Mary ran back to tell the others what had happened. And on that same day in the afternoon, some of the followers of Jesus were walking slowly on the road to Emmaus from Jerusalem. And as they walked, they were talking. The cross, the empty tomb, what could it mean? And as they were talking, a stranger came alongside them and walked for a while, and then asked, "What are you talking about?" They turned and said to the stranger, "You must be the only person in all of Jerusalem that doesn't know what's happened. The cross, the empty tomb, it's so much." And then the stranger said, "Oh, you poor and foolish-hearted ones." And then he began to open up the scriptures to them. "Do you not remember how when we were trapped in Egypt, Moses led us through the water into freedom? And how when we were trapped in our freedom in the desert, God gave us the 10 Commandments to guide us? And how when we were trapped in exile, how the prophet said, 'A child will lead them,' and how someone would have to die to make us truly free." By this time, they'd reached the town of Emmaus, and the stranger was about to go on, but the other two said, Come into the inn and have supper with us." So the three of them went into the inn. And at the table, the stranger took bread, gave thanks to God, and broke it, and shared it with them. And suddenly they knew it was he. And then he was gone. They sat for a while and said, "Did not our hearts burn within us as he opened the scriptures to us?" And they turned and headed back to Jerusalem to tell others the news. Now in Jerusalem, the disciples were gathering in a closed room, the door tightly shut, because they were afraid that the Roman soldiers would come and take them as they had taken Jesus. And as they were gathered this time, suddenly in the midst of them they heard, "Peace be with you." They turned, and it was he. At first they thought he was a ghost, but then he started talking to them. He showed them his wounds. He ate a piece of fish, and as he had with those on the road to Emmaus, he opened the scriptures to them. And then, "Peace be with you," and he was gone. Now, one of the disciples, Thomas, was not there that day, and when they told Thomas what had happened, he did not believe. Thomas had doubt in his bones. Who could blame him? The others were stretching and stretching to know Jesus in this new way. A number of days passed, And once again, the disciples were gathered in a room with a door closed, and this time Thomas was with them. And in the midst, "Peace be with you." They turned, and this time Jesus walked right up to Thomas and showed him his hands and said, "Feel my wounds." All Thomas could do was fall to his knees and say, "My Lord and my God." Jesus looked at him for a few minutes and said, "Have you believed only because you have seen?" And then he turned to the others and said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." And then he was gone. The disciples walked the long road from Jerusalem to Galilee, where Jesus was to meet them. This was a place where they had grown up as boys by the Sea of Galilee, and they had fished there, some of them, with their fathers. And as they sat beside the sea, Peter suddenly stood up and said, "I'm going fishing." The others got up and helped prepare the boat, and they set off onto the Sea of Galilee. They fished all night, but caught nothing. But still, the sounds and smells of the sea were so familiar, they comforted them. They felt that they were home. Morning broke, first pink and then into blue, and they saw someone walking along the shore. They could see them standing beside a fire. They could see the white smoke and the red embers of the charcoal. And he called out, "Have you caught anything?" All they could say was, "We've caught nothing." "Cast your nets on the other side of the boat." What did they have to lose? So they pulled out their empty nets and hauled them to the other side of the boat and threw them in. And as they cast their nets, they could feel the fish moving against the rope nets. Now John was not paying attention to the fish. He was leaning forward, looking at the person on the shore. And he said to Peter, "It is the Lord." Peter stood up, jumped into the water, and swam towards shore, wading up through the sand on the shore. The others turned the boat and headed into shore. As they approached the fire, he said, "Bring some fish." And as they gathered around the fire, they knew that it was he, but no one spoke. Then he said, "Here, have some breakfast." And he took some fish that had been cooking on the fire and gave it to them, and some bread. Then Jesus turned to Peter and began to talk about growing old, and how that sometimes when we get older, people tell us what to do, even if we don't want to. Later, the disciples thought that maybe Jesus was preparing Peter for his death many years later in Rome as an old man. Jesus said to Peter, "Do you love me?" "Yes, Lord." "Feed my lambs." Then again, "Peter, do you love me?" "Lord, you know that I do." "Then tend my sheep." Then again, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter said, "Yes, Lord, I do." "Then feed my sheep." Then Jesus said, "Follow me." "All of them?" "No, just Peter." And Peter stood up and walked along the shore with Jesus, talking to him. John followed at a bit of a distance. And at one point, Peter turned and looked at John and said, "Will he die like the rest of us?" And Jesus said, It is not given to you to know these things." And then he was gone. The disciples had gathered in Galilee, and now they gathered and went up the mountain to meet Jesus. And when they got there, he was already there. It was good to see him, even in this new way. But they wondered what they were supposed to do now. Oh, but listen. He was speaking again. What was he saying? "All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me." What was he talking about? He was always saying things that they didn't understand. And then he said something that they did understand, but they did not want to hear. Jesus said, "Go everywhere. Tell my story, even this part, to everyone. Show people how to be good disciples. Tell everyone this story so they could be part of it. Baptize people in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit." This was too far to travel. This was too much to do. And then, to their dismay, they heard him speak again. And Jesus said, "Behold, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." And then he was gone. As the disciples walked back to Jerusalem, they talked about what Jesus meant. They used to be followers. Now they were to be leaders. They used to be sheep, and now they were to be shepherds. They had come home for the last time, and now they were going to show everyone the way home. The story's growing of knowing Jesus in all these new ways. And I wonder what part of the story you like best so far. I wonder what part for you is most important. I wonder where you are in this story. Which part's about you? Now I wonder if there's anything where you are, in the place where you're watching this, or in your memory from the Godly Playroom, or in your imagination, that you could bring to tell more about this part of the story. I don't know what you would get. I don't know what you'd bring. Only you know. Go ahead. And I'm hoping there's someone there with you in the circle that you can talk to about what you've brought. Well, as you can see, there's more to the story. And that'll be for next week. So, thank you for being with us in the circle today. And as you get ready to leave, your blessing. May the Lord bless you and watch over you. May the Lord make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look kindly on you and give you peace. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you